Welcome back, everybody, to In the Loop. What's up, everybody? My name is Michael Burpo, and thank you for joining us for another episode of In the Loop. Today, we're going to be talking about our reflections on the jewelry industry, and it's going to be a little bit more off the cuff, and it's going to be more of a personal perspective. And I'm joined by Katie Kinlaw and Cody Giles, and we're going to be talking all about what we've seen in the jewelry industry in our nearly 4 years of experience. So these are the things that we've seen change pretty suddenly, also the things that we hope will change more in the future, as well as the cool little insider perspective that we've noticed. I think it's a really fun episode. It's a little bit more casual than we normally do, but I think you'll still enjoy it. This episode is brought to you by Punchmark, the jewelry industry's leading website provider. Join the community of nearly 500 other jewelry stores in choosing Punchmark's easy-to-run and e-commerce enabled website platform by visiting punchmark.com for your free trial demo. And this episode is brought to you by the Smithee Group, a digital growth agency that helps leaders and businesses dream bigger and achieve multi-generational integrity. Through insights and intelligence, digital marketing and advertising solutions, they help businesses expand their business and grow their revenue. The Smithee Group has helped hundreds of businesses surpass their goals and believe that whatever your business, whatever your story, they will make it matter to your audience. A very special thank you to The Edge point of sale system for sponsoring this week's episode, and you'll hear more about them later on the show. Thanks, enjoy. All right, everybody. So I'm joined by Katie Kinlaw and Cody Giles. How are you guys doing today?
Excellent.
Good.
Good. So today we're kind of celebrating, I don't know if we're celebrating, but we're doing reflections on the jewelry industry. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we've learned in our tenure in this industry. It's definitely a kind of a unique ecosystem, and we're going to have just kind of our thoughts on it. And maybe you'll enjoy it if you're part of the jewelry industry, some people that have newly entered it, and kind of our opinions. So let's start with this. Cody Giles, how long have you been in the jewelry industry for?
I've been in the industry almost 4 years.
4 years. And with the Smithee Group the entire time?
Yeah, with the Smithee Group since 2017.
Okay. And Katie Kinlaw, how many years have you been in the jewelry industry?
Yeah, so in terms of jewelry specifically, about 2.5. My first day actually at Punchmark was Valentine's Day, so...
How romantic.
We love it. Romantic.
And then I've been here for just shy of 4 years now. And I got brought in with a bunch of, with two other members at Punchmark. And I was a web designer. And then I eventually kind of dabbled a little bit deeper into the jewelry industry. So let's kind of talk about this. What is one thing that surprised you about the jewelry industry? We'll just kind of keep it loose and we'll see where this takes us. Cody, would you mind starting us off with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think coming into the jewelry industry, what was most surprising just was how much of a digital delay there was when it came to just best practices, even normal practices of what you should be doing from a social standpoint and digital standpoint. Just seeing that lack there, I think it's attributed to just generationally, we look at a lot of store owners and age ranges and stuff like that. But that was definitely the biggest surprise, was just how much of there was a lack of digital and what you should be doing. Still a heavy focus on traditional media, and seeing that as the best marketing avenue compared to what could be done from the digital standpoint.
I always thought of it seemed like people always thought of their website as, I always call it a digital billboard, where it was like, if someone wants to know about you, they can click on it, see the exterior of your store, see kind of like maybe what brands you carry, but they're certainly not looking at your inventory. They're certainly not checking out. I mean, this was 4 years ago. And honestly, as recently as like 2 years ago. And then, I mean, COVID happened and it was like, figure this thing out or you're going to have some real troubles. So what about you, Katie? Anything that really surprised you?
Yeah, so as Cody is speaking, I'm over here just nodding my head because that's exactly how I feel coming into the industry, and sitting down with clients and kind of looking at their websites as they're kind of transitioning and trying to figure out what their online presence looks like. There's such a differentiation between kind of standard best practices and some of the like prior components of like older websites that they're still trying to kind of figure out. When we talk about jewelry, it really is all about imagery and branding. Like, you're selling something that's beautiful. And a lot of the times, I'll work with new clients and their websites will be a little bit clunky. And another component that's a big piece too is just product imagery. Like understanding, one, best practices around product imagery, but two, how much anxiety that gives our clients too.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the times I'll hear them complain about like how long it takes to do this, right? Like taking all these product imagery. And I feel like that's the biggest gatekeeper in transitioning to really pushing e-commerce for a lot of them, is the stress and anxiety of managing one, product images, and two, just inventory and how that transitions between website and in-store.
I think, Katie, you've done this a lot, but Mike, you too, when we think about websites, and for a lot of people that I've talked to in the past, they used to see that just as a source for information.
Yeah.
Right.
I needed to have a couple pages that talked about my store, maybe showcased the brands. They really wouldn't put any kind of products on there, but they weren't looking at it in that regard. Someone just needs to be able to come to my website, see a bit about my business, and then get my phone number.
See what I'm about.
Address, phone number.
And then come into my store. We've seen that progression shift to them realizing and recognizing that your website is really another salesperson that you could use to your advantage to convert. It's not just a site for information.
Right.
It's really a site to convert. The first step in that was sort of, all right, let's convert people from the website to booking an appointment, to then coming into the store, having that one-to-one confirmation. Let's get over that hump. Now let's really focus on the fact that we need to let people shop online, see brands, have more interactions. It takes time to build that up. We all know, we talk to people in the industry. A lot of people really believe in it. A lot of people still, though, are a bit unsure about they're hesitant. They're a bit unsure about the environment. I would say even for us, as we looked at 2020, for those sort of non-believers, that's what really converted them into believers. I know you all experienced a mass wave of retailers that maybe didn't have e-commerce.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden coming back to you saying, turn it on, we need it. Like, we've said this for many years, like you have to have e-commerce enabled. And we saw that for us, for our retailers that already, I mean, the majority of our partners, really, they recognize digital, right? That's why they're working with us. But those that had full e-commerce enabled and XYZ fared a lot better than other people that we saw in the industry that maybe we worked with in the past that didn't quite believe in the power of digital, that they hopefully made it through, but didn't make it through as powerful as they could have if they would have had everything in place and knew the full power before it took 2020 and COVID to realize exactly why digital was so important.
Yeah. It's like the difference between leaning back and leaning in. It's like before it was they were leaning back. They're like, if they're looking for me, I'm going to be easily found. However, now they're like leaning in that it's, if they're looking for me, I'm going to make the sale right there, and or I'm going to at least get them farther down the road instead of having them do all the work themselves. And I totally agree what you said about the anxiety of taking their own product photos. That is a major hump, it seems like. And I mean, we've had them as a previous sponsor, the Gem Lightbox, but they're one of our partners, but this is Pickup Media's Gem Lightbox. They have absolutely changed the way that the game was around product shots, because they used to have to use like back when I started, they used to have like an entire light room setup thing to get the sparkle, and it was like a multiple hour kind of thing. They had to set it all up, have a nice photographer come in, and now it's just something as simple as just taking the box out, putting it on the table, unlocking a couple pieces, having your iPhone, boom, 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 upload them, and you're on to the next thing if you get inventory. So that's definitely a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I think we see too, when it comes to capturing content from an owner perspective, they just think, okay, you have the owners, you have the salespeople.
Yeah.
But we really try to push, while you're thinking about hiring salespeople, think about hiring someone that can capture content that maybe can do a 50-50 split of being on the floor and selling, but also has that capability and has that digital mindset to be able to capture content, not only for social, but also for the website, and using tools like Gem Lightbox to be able to capture imagery for the website. Mm-hmm. That way you have someone on staff that can do that in addition to other elements. So it's just as critical when you're hiring salespeople to hire someone that can capture content and focus on that digital aspect, since you need both of them now. I think owners, and fair enough, you're overwhelmed that I need to manage what's happening in store, but I also have to manage these external variables like my website and my social media platforms and my marketing. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with all of it, but having the right people in place and the right partners in place can help you succeed in that and not feel like you have to take it on alone, which leads to just never taking it on because there's too much anxiety around that.
I think the social game has stepped up massively in the jewelry industry in the last 4 years. I think that's in no small part to the Smithee Group. I definitely think that people are suddenly, the quality of their social posts and their feed, just the general knowledge and know-how of, hashtagging and geotagging and just how they take their shots and how they do their lifestyles. People are coming up with these unique voices independently of really any of us. And they're actually figuring out who they are as a brand. And with that, it just comes with like a way better kind of social voice. And that's definitely something I've noticed change drastically in the probably 2 years ago that started to come around.
What I love to see from a retailer for their social feed is that transition from only using branded assets because that's the easy way out to capturing their own content and posting that versus feeling like they're just
recycling,
an echo chamber for all these other brands and that's all they're posting. And that doesn't let your feed be consistent, doesn't have the same color visuals, but being able to really harness the ability to capture their own content and show that in feed and give their followers something to look forward to when they're coming into the store, they're seeing these pieces in real environments with people that they already know from the store. It's really powerful and it steps their game up. And there's proven results of like that increases their following, it increases their engagement rate, it can turn sales. Like the proof is there of whenever you can convert from using branded assets to using your own assets and harnessing that, it can help you grow your business easily.
Right. And I think another thing too is you have to consider, you have to change your marketing tactics based on the change in the market. And the demographic is so much different nowadays, right? Like your demographic are people, probably predominantly bridal, they're online, they're on social media, like there's so many statistics that shows they're going to go on social media. They're going to engage with your website. So it's important to have all of these pieces, one, be streamlined, beautiful, have, be a good reflection of your store, but also have your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram reflect that too. It's just going to be a credibility builder. And that's just going to lead, it's another touch point in that marketing funnel. And you have to tailor it specifically to your demographic, which is not interacting as much with some of those traditional medium as well. I mean, billboards, there's still merit to it. There's still merit to some of those other like mailers and things like that. But you have to think about the change in the market.
You have to think about that. And even from us, and Ben says, like, we're platform agnostic. Whatever's going to work and drive sales, we're all for. So we're going to push hard for digital campaigns. But if that mailer that you send out gets $30,000 in revenue for you during an event, let's really harness that. Let's help grow it. Let's help redesign and amp that up even more. So that marketing mix is important. That omni-channel approach is really important. So when you're thinking, and this is overall, when you're thinking about all of your marketing, what you're doing via traditional and via digital, making sure that has a cohesive message. So no matter what I'm seeing on my phone, what I'm seeing on a billboard or on TV or on radio, it all lines up and there's not inconsistent messaging going out. I think that inconsistent messaging was one of the next pieces that I wanted to bring up just in regards to what I've kind of seen and what I've learned. Yeah. We'll go to shows and we just got back from the Atlanta Jewelry Show and we talk to retailers and we sit down and they tell us about their brand and they're so passionate about what they do and their staff and their store and all these great components. We pull up their website and we see none of that.
Right.
Yeah. You're telling me you have this great staff, they're young, they're vibrant, they're XYZ. I go to your homepage, it's cold. I see products on white backgrounds. I see no store visuals. I see no team members. Everything you just told me that I now believe in and I bought into what you told me, if I go online, I see none of that. So there's still an inconsistency in, from a store perspective or an owner perspective and the team perspective, what they think their brand is and what they try to go for in store versus they don't have the ability or they can't translate that online in the right way. So someone that is coming to their site or seeing them for the first time from a digital perspective, if I go to their website and that's the first interaction I've had with the brand, it's cold. Nothing here is driving my interest. Nothing here is standing out to me.
Yeah.
Right.
But if I came into the store, I would get that. But I'm never going to come into the store because I'm going to go online to find you first. And you're not telling me what's going to happen when I come into the store. That big digital divide there is something that I've seen a lot. That we work with almost every retailer that comes on board. Tell us about you. Tell us about your store. Okay, let's look back at the website. I know you guys do this too. Give us more about the vibe. Tell us more about you all. And let's express that personality. It's the human brand. We talked a lot about the human brand in 2020 and why it was so powerful. But that human brand, how does that convey online to convert consumers and get them excited about your brand and not feeling like it's just like every other jewelry store across the country?
Yeah. So you guys end up going to a lot of jewelry shows. You guys just went to AJS in Atlanta, and I think you guys have been to most of the jewelry shows. What is something that was unexpected or that you've learned in 4 years about jewelry shows. I think they're a pretty wild place, and I think I love meeting jewelers. I haven't been to a show in a little bit, but maybe you guys can give me a little bit more perspective.
Now, Mike, what happens at JCK Vegas stays at
JCK
in Vegas. We can't talk about it either.
I'm trying to go. I want to go. I'm trying to get there.
That's a good question. What I was really surprised by, it was a good thing, was just how nice certain people are, like how you build up so many good relationships with people, and how even the jewelers interact with each other. It's one of the weirdest things for me coming into this was going to a show and working with multiple clients, and those clients interacting with each other as well. Like, I know each of you individually, they know each other, and we're all I love going to dinners together with multiple clients that we have, and we're all just having a good time, and everything's kind of symbiotic working together. So the relationship piece there, I think, is big, and even meeting people for the first time and how they just embrace you and welcome you. I mean, I just met Denise from ClearSale. Shout out. She's like the greatest person. Met her for the first.
Shout out to Denise.
We love Denise. We met her for the first time at AJS, and she was so nice. Like, by the second day, you just feel like you're best friends, right? Just the warmth you can feel from the community, I think, was a big surprise for me.
Yeah. Katie?
Yeah, I was definitely going to say, for me, that's certainly the case in terms of building those relationships. I mean, Cody, the first time I met you was at a trade show way before in the Loupe. And so thankful that we've, built this relationship together too. But for me specifically, so I came from a digital marketing agency that worked with tons of different types of industries and components, more on the industrial side of things. So not necessarily as specific with fashion and luxury and brands. So I remember my first experience walking into a trade show, it took my breath away in terms of all of the displays and the imagery and all of the vendors. I remember just really being in awe of the entire situation.
So much jewelry.
So much jewelry.
Gosh, so much.
You think about JCK, just how much stuff is there. And I never knew that the jewelry industry was so expansive and so wide.
Right.
And you go to JCK and it's everybody is there.
There's people selling engraving tools, and there's people selling refineries, or you can, close out sales and software and tech. We're tech people, and we are only one drop in the bucket of the folks that are walking around. It's such a cool thing to learn. I wish I could impress that upon people more when they ask me about what the jewelry industry is like, but instead I get asked the same question, how do I get the biggest rock for my fiance? It's you can do this, I guess. So
it's really great to go to shows like IJO where you get to see a lot of these smaller retailers. And we've worked with so many people, but there's still so many more out there that we haven't had a chance to work with, or that haven't been to a webinar that we've done. We haven't got a chance to talk to, even for you all as well.
Right.
We're just covering a one part of the area, and there's so much more out there in the jewelry industry to capture. There's just so much growth opportunity there for what's to come in the future.
Yeah. I was just going to say one little shout out to when we were in Atlanta, and I had a current client of ours sit down and just kind of catching up. And I don't have a working relationship with them specifically, but they just had some general questions, and we were running through a few things. And she mentioned, she goes, "Oh, I was listening to In the Loupe on the way up here."
Oh, crazy.
Love that.
So it just makes me happy that some of the things that we're doing is working, and people are finding it valuable. So I'm so happy to have this relationship with you guys, and I feel like it all started at trade shows. So shout out.
100%.
That's awesome. I mean, speaking of value, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in just a couple seconds. Thanks, everybody. Support for this week's episode comes from The Edge. The Edge is the jewelry industry's leading point-of-sale system, though you've probably already heard about how amazing they are. They're in the business to help independent jewelers succeed in an ever-evolving retail environment where technology plays a major role. Their promise to their clients is to never let them get caught in technological or functional time warp. The Edge develops their software on state-of-the-art technology and adds features and functionality in the best interest of their users. In the words of Edge founder Dick Abbott, our biggest reward is the success of our store owners. To learn more about the Edge point-of-sale system and all the ways that can accelerate your business approach into an omni-channel solution, visit theedgeforjewelers.com. Thanks, back to the show. All right, right, everybody, we're back. So maybe we can talk about some things that we're still learning. So, I mean, we're 4 years in. You think that we'd learn everything. I mean, just the other day in our Punchmark community, which is our closed Facebook group for our clients, and we run like a lot of polls in there, just stuff to keep the community moving. And sometimes I ask questions that I want to know the answer for, and it's kind of selfish of me, but I just want to know. Like I asked the other day, what is the difference between fashion jewelry and fine jewelry? And I had like 4 different answers. And I guess there's not really like a technical term. It's more like, what do you categorize as fashion jewelry and fine jewelry? How do you guys classify it? That'd be an interesting question.
Well, I was just thinking about that. I mean, don't you think it's different for every retailer? Also, depending where you're at.
Yes.
Right.
You know, somebody in New York would classify fine jewelry as very expensive. But if I go to, Oklahoma, fine jewelry could be a lot different just based on your demographic and who's buying and like what that threshold is of purchase capability is. So I think it's different everywhere. I just always classified fine jewelry as that bit more luxury, bit more diamond focused. Fashion jewelry, really your Kendra Scott brands or your lower cost, more affordable items.
Kitty, is that how you would explain it?
Yeah, I feel like it's probably on the same vein, but kind of in the same conversation too. I mean, I'm continuously learning about jewelry as well, in terms of like the 4 C's and like all of the components that come with that. I myself am not a very big jewelry person. Like I'll wear very specific things, but it's funny. We talked about trade shows. I'm slowly getting certain pieces and like I'm learning more about this versus that. And, there's lots of really cool pieces that come in, like just learning the jewelry itself and the difference between the different metal types. And, it's just so interesting.
Yes. What's the difference between a necklace and a pendant?
The chain?
The chain.
Maybe?
I don't actually know. I always write, when I do category names and I have to like do a widget, I say necklaces and pendants. And I just leave it like that because I don't know the difference between them.
We've started to learn a lot more just about different kind of types of necklaces that you could have, like station, I think they're called diamond station necklaces, where there's just diamonds every so often. And there's so many different options out there. Like Kitty, I think for us as marketers, it's important that we stay up on trends and like really the 4 C's and XYZ is we're trying to write ad copy and,
right.
Educate consumers as well about, it could be about diamond grading. It could be about, one of the other 4 C's. We're really lucky to be able to work with great partners. So whenever we're starting to work on ad copy or we're crafting out messaging, being able to talk with people in store and say, okay, how do you describe this to your customers? Like, how do they take in this information and then try to translate that from an ad perspective and keep it very surface level? We kept packing a lot of information to the point we would confuse the consumer, but trying to adapt what, the jewelry retailer is telling us in very like technical terms and remolding it to be more consumer facing. So we have to play that middleman at times of,
right.
You give me all this information, let me try to remold it and make it easily understandable for the consumers that are going to be viewing our marketing.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. And I tell this to my clients all the time. I am the expert in what I do from a digital perspective. You are the expert in what we're selling. So that's why it's so important to clarify it as a partnership, not just like a vendor-vendor relationship. You know what I mean? I like building that relationship with my clients. And again, because it's a give and take, and like, working together is the best way to get that information, pull those best practices together, and really have a killer campaign.
You're never going to see success if it's not really seen as a partnership compared to,
right.
We're paying you for a service, you kind of handle everything. We've always seen that hasn't worked out in the long run. Like when we bring on a new partner, we really talk about this is going to be an investment for you as well. And you're going to feel that definitely up front as we get going, and it's going to relax over time. But this is a mutual partnership.
Yeah.
We can't completely do it on our own. We have to work together on this to see success. And those are the best partnerships that we have whenever people really see the value in working together.
I also think that the vendor to retailer relationship, I guess it's something that to me seems unique to the jewelry industry. So I don't know how many people are going to be listening that aren't in the jewelry industry, but just to kind of shed some light on it, there are these people that make the jewelry, and then there are stores that you've probably been in that sell the jewelry. And the stores that sell the jewelry generally buy the jewelry from the vendor, and they are hosting it in their store, and then, I guess reselling it or kind of turning it over. But those brands that you might recognize are only a small batch of vendors in the jewelry industry. And there are some that are actually even considered able to be white labeled. I don't know how public this information is. I think it's public. But like jewelry that is, that the brand doesn't need to be on that jewelry. And then that store can actually say it's their private label, or they can say it's their antique collection or something along those lines. And that's actually more common than you would expect. There's the brands that you know that are consumer facing, and then there are the brands that you might not know that are actually providing to the jewelers as well. So they don't have to like make all the jewelry in-house, because that would be rather unmanageable. Did I miss anything on that?
That's pretty good. When we talk about vendors, though, and this is what Mike and I asked the question for, is where's the men's jewelry at? That's one of the biggest things I've learned being in the industry, where you see all these brands, all these incredible brands. It's all geared towards, female fashion, right? I mean, that's a large portion of the industry, but
massive portion,
humongous portion. But when it comes to men's jewelry, I really want to see more brands out there. I mean, there's some, we have like Inox. We worked with those guys. They're great. They carry a lot of pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You have the larger brands like David Yurman or John Hardy. It's a step up in terms of pricing, but it seems to me like there's still this gap of affordability for a millennial and a Gen Z audience that wants to, from a male perspective, take part in that fashion element, but can't really find a lot of brands to do that. One brand that's rose up in the past few years is called Jackson. They're actually an online e-commerce brand. They do chains and bracelets. They do like gold and also silver and stuff like that. So they've started to step up the game. They have great marketing, but beyond that, I don't really know of many other brands for men's jewelry that retailers would carry or that I could find online that are at reasonable prices that allow me to grow my collection over time. You look at Kendra Scott and other lower brands, or other different brands. I don't call them lower, just different brands that allow someone an entry point into the store. We talk a lot about into fashion, and we talk a lot about
into fashion.
What brands can you carry? They're at a lower price point, so you can get someone in your store for the first time.
Right.
When they are ready to get engaged, that's when you're going to get them. That could be a little bit later on in life. But what can you do to nurture them younger? Like, what could you do for that 18 to 24 range that's not ready for an engagement ring, but they want nice jewelry to wear that's affordable for them? So is it that Kendra Scott we see that we can push a lot that gets people into the store that are younger, gets them built up, that you can turn them into lifelong customers? But what's the entry point in that? I think for men, you have watches, right? So you got Shanola and other brands like that. But outside of that, what other jewelry and fashion accessories can you offer? That's where I just was like, man, I want to see, I'm now in the jewelry industry. I want to see some more brands that do this.
Yeah.
Such a drought for it too. Yeah. It's like, it's either, you either got wedding bands, and that's if you're married. And if you're not, then you've got watches, and those are kind of more pricey. And if you're not into watches, you got like rope jewelry or skulls. And that's pretty much all you got. And I'm like, how come there's no like, I don't know, bracelets or bangles or something that's like a little bit more tasteful, maybe made out of a heavier metal or something like that, that is kind of more branded towards a guy? Or even like more, I mean, there's Cuban links and like kind of chains, but even if it's like something less, overt as something like that, I feel like it's, and earrings, it's like you got diamond studs or you got gauges, and that's pretty much, I mean, the only spot. I wish that they would just kind of innovate a little bit more, but maybe I haven't seen it yet.
100%. That Cuban link approach is sort of Jackson.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Yeah, you agree, Katie?
Yeah, I was going to say, and talking about things that kind of surprise us in the industry, and maybe I shouldn't necessarily be surprised, but you're right, there's such a gap in men's jewelry, but across the board, and especially from an e-commerce perspective, like I'll work with a client and we'll go over like priorities and what they really want to push online, and men's jewelry is never at the top.
No.
Because they either don't have the inventory or they're not familiar with brands that sell really well. Because I feel like for a lot of our stores that we've talked to, and it's going to be different per market, that men's jewelry just doesn't do as well in certain areas. But I wonder how much of that is there's not the right brand maybe that they've pushed so far. But I don't know. I mean, hopefully in the industry we'll start to see some of those vendors come out with, jewelry like that. So we'll see.
It'd be nice. Anything else, guys, before we wrap it up? Things that we've learned about the jewelry industry, our kind of reflections on it. What do you guys, are you excited for the direction it's going?
I think what I really like to see from jewelers pushing more into is that community involvement aspect. It is that way, like we talk about, when it comes to jewelry, getting lower price points to get someone in for the first time. Also, how do you just integrate in the community even more for small things? I mean, we looked back at 2020 and we had a retailer that just took a moment to celebrate grads in the area. They did a few little giveaways, took a nice little treat to a few grads, but that got them in the community. People respond really well to that. So I love to see opportunities where jewelers can step outside of this sort of I don't know if, like I said, it's a weird environment. People kind of have these weird thoughts around jewelry, and that it's expensive. I'm not going to go in there unless I need to make a high level purchase, right? How do they get out in the community to say, this isn't really what we're about? Just come into the store for X, Y, or Z. Love to see opportunities where our jewelers are partnering with, sororities, for example, and doing like diamond education sessions. Like those are so great. So I'm excited for the industry to do more of that, to capture the young consumer, like my age and like for our age, really, just so that can convert into something down the road. And it's not always, I feel like I'm never the demographic or the market for a jeweler until I'm ready to buy an engagement ring. But there's so many other potential avenues that I could take before that, whether you're, for men's jewelry or women's jewelry, there's so much more out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. To kind of piggyback off of that, I've seen a lot of retailers, especially over the course of 2020, do different drives, and they sell like bracelets. Like they do a lot with bracelets too, and they have like a specific charity that they donate a certain percentage of the sales towards that. And number one, I mean, it's a relatively low price point, so more people are going to be engaged with it. They're going to be engaged with your brand. They're going to be familiar with who you are. And two, it's toward a good cause. So I definitely agree. I feel like more community outreach, more connecting with that consumer, starting at a little bit of a younger age to really kind of gain that lifetime client, I think is going to be really big for a lot of our clients as they continue to move forward in 2021 and on.
Absolutely, guys. So I think that's what we'll call it, and we'll wrap it right there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. A very special thank you to The Edge Point of Sale System for sponsoring this week's episode, and Cody Giles, Katie Kinlaw, if you need to get in touch with them, Cody at the Smithee Group, Katie at punchmark.com. And my name is Michael Burpo. You can find me, design team at punchmark.com. And I don't have a direct one. You don't need that one. And I think everybody will be back next week with another episode and information about the digital age. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening. Leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, and remember to subscribe. It really helps us grow. Thank you so much. See you next week.